Have you ever felt like your life has been guided through a path that doesn't make sense to anyone else? A path filled with strange delays, silent battles, and moments where you felt completely alone, yet somehow protected at the same time? What if the struggles you thought were random were actually messages? Messages written by Allah long before you even understood your purpose. There are moments in a believer's life when the heart begins to feel something deeper, something powerful, something that cannot be explained with logic alone. It feels as if Allah is speaking directly to your soul, through your experiences, through the trials that shaped you, and through the doors that closed for reasons you could not see at the time. The truth is, not everyone walks the same journey. Some people are chosen to go through a different kind of path, a path that prepares them, purifies them, and strengthens them for a purpose greater than they can imagine. If you've ever wondered why your tests seem heavier, why your faith refuses to break even after everything you've faced, and why certain moments in your life felt like divine reminders meant only for you, then this message may not be a coincidence. In today's video, we're going to uncover 10 powerful lessons about the chosen ones and why sometimes it feels like Allah has spoken something to your heart that changes everything. Stay with me until the end, because one of these lessons might explain the very journey you are living right now. One of the most profound realities of the journey of a chosen believer is that Allah often draws certain hearts closer to Him through trials that others may never fully understand. While many people look at hardship as something negative, in Islam trials are often signs of Allah's attention toward a servant. When Allah wants to elevate someone, He does not simply grant them comfort. He refines them through experiences that purify their heart, strengthen their faith, and detach them from the illusions of this temporary world. You may have noticed that your life has been marked by moments of difficulty that seemed heavier than what others around you faced. Perhaps relationships ended in ways that left you confused, opportunities disappeared when you thought they were finally your breakthrough, or you walked through seasons of loneliness where it felt like no one truly understood the weight you were carrying. Yet despite all of this, something inside you refused to abandon faith. Even when your heart was tired, you still turned back to Allah. Even when answers were delayed, you still whispered your prayers in the quiet of the night. This is not weakness. This is a sign that your heart is being trained to rely on Allah in a way that many people never experience. Throughout history, the people who were closest to Allah were also the ones who faced the greatest tests. Before they were elevated, they were refined. Before they were honored, they were humbled. Trials strip away the distractions of the world and force the soul to return to its Creator. They reveal who truly trusts Allah and who only believes when life is easy. When everything in life is going smoothly, it is easy to feel self-sufficient, but when trials arrive, they expose how deeply a person truly depends on Allah. If you look closely at your journey, you may realize that your hardships slowly changed you. They softened your heart, increased your awareness of Allah, and taught you lessons that comfort could never teach. They made you more patient, more compassionate, and more aware of the temporary nature of worldly things. What once felt like suffering may actually be Allah removing distractions so that your heart can focus on what truly matters. Sometimes Allah places a servant in situations where the only door left open is the door to Him. And when a believer walks through that door with sincerity, their relationship with Allah becomes stronger than ever before. The world may see your struggles as unfortunate events, but from a spiritual perspective, they may actually be invitations, divine invitations calling you closer to the one who created you. Every moment of patience, every tear shed in prayer, every time you chose faith over despair is seen by Allah and recorded with perfect justice. The trials you survived were not random chapters in your life story. They were moments where Allah was shaping your character, deepening your reliance on Him, and preparing your heart for something greater than you can currently imagine. Sometimes Allah tests a servant not to break them, but to reveal the strength He already placed inside them. And the hearts that endure these trials with patience often emerge with a level of faith that cannot be shaken by the storms of this world. If you have walked through seasons of hardship yet still feel a pull toward Allah, understand that this may be one of the greatest signs of divine care. Allah calls certain hearts closer through trials, not because He wishes to harm them, but because He intends to elevate them, purify them, and bring them into a deeper relationship with Him that becomes more valuable than anything this world could ever offer. There are moments in a believer's life when the heart cries out to Allah with sincerity, when the prayers become longer, the tears fall quietly in the darkness of the night, and the soul waits for relief that seems delayed. In those moments, it can feel as if the heavens are silent, as if the answer you are desperately hoping for is not arriving. But one of the deepest spiritual lessons a chosen believer eventually learns is that the silence of Allah is never emptiness. It is often one of His most powerful forms of communication. When Allah delays an answer, it does not mean He did not hear the prayer, and it certainly does not mean He has abandoned the servant who is calling upon Him. In fact, every whisper of a prayer, every tear shed in hope, and every moment of patience is seen and recorded by the one who knows the secrets of every heart. Sometimes the silence exists because Allah is arranging something far greater than what the believer asked for. Human beings often pray for what they can see in front of them, but Allah sees the future, the consequences, and the hidden paths that no human mind can comprehend. What appears to be delay from our perspective may actually be protection from something we cannot yet understand. Think about the times in your life when you begged Allah for something, believing it would solve everything, only to realize later that receiving it might have caused more harm than good. Allah's silence in those moments was not rejection, it was mercy disguised as delay. At other times, the silence is meant to transform the believer themselves. There are lessons that comfort can never teach, and there are spiritual depths that only patience can reveal. When a person continues to pray, even when answers seem delayed, their faith becomes stronger, their sincerity becomes purer, and their reliance on Allah becomes deeper than before. The silence becomes a training ground for the soul, teaching it to trust Allah not only when life is easy, but also when life feels uncertain. Many people believe that closeness to Allah means their prayers will always be answered immediately, but the reality is often the opposite. The closer a servant is to Allah, the more their faith is refined through waiting, patience, and trust. Silence forces the heart to grow beyond dependence on immediate results and instead develop a deeper certainty that Allah's wisdom is always perfect. When you are walking through a period where your prayers seem unanswered, understand that Allah is still listening, still guiding, and still shaping your story in ways that are invisible to you right now. Sometimes the silence exists because the moment you are asking for has not arrived yet. Sometimes the silence exists because Allah is strengthening you so that when the answer finally comes, you will be ready to receive it with gratitude and humility. And sometimes the silence exists simply because Allah wants to hear you continue calling upon Him, because the relationship between a servant and their creator becomes most sincere during those quiet moments of waiting. What feels like silence to the human heart may actually be Allah working behind the scenes, moving pieces into place with a wisdom that only He possesses. The believer who understands this truth eventually stops interpreting silence as abandonment and begins to see it as a reminder that Allah's plan operates beyond human timing. The quiet moments where nothing seems to be changing may actually be the moments where the greatest transformations are taking place within the soul. And when the answer finally arrives, the believer often looks back and realizes that the silence itself was part of the message, teaching patience, trust, and faith in a way that no immediate answer ever could. One of the most difficult truths that many chosen believers eventually face is that not everyone will understand the path that Allah has written for them. There will be moments in your life when the decisions you make, the direction you follow, and the changes happening inside your heart will confuse the people around you. Some may question you, others may criticize you, and a few may even walk away because they cannot comprehend what Allah is doing in your life. This experience can feel painful because human beings naturally seek understanding, support, and acceptance from those around them. But the reality of a spiritually guided journey is that it often unfolds in ways that cannot be explained through ordinary logic. When Allah begins shaping someone for a deeper purpose, the transformation starts within the heart long before the world can see the outcome. Your priorities begin to change, your perspective on life becomes different, and the things that once attracted you may suddenly lose their importance. People who knew you in earlier stages of your life might struggle to recognize this new version of you, and sometimes they may misinterpret your growth as distance, pride, or confusion. But in truth, what they are witnessing is a spiritual evolution that only Allah fully understands. Throughout history, those who walked the path of faith often faced misunderstanding from their own communities. When someone begins to align their life more closely with divine guidance, it can challenge the comfort zones of those around them. Some people prefer familiarity, and when they see someone stepping outside the patterns they are used to, they may respond with doubt or judgment. Yet the chosen believer must learn that understanding from others is not always necessary for obedience to Allah. The journey towards spiritual growth is deeply personal, and the connection between a servant and their Creator exists on a level that no human observer can fully grasp. There will be seasons in your life when you feel like you are walking alone, when your vision for the future feels clear to you but confusing to everyone else. In those moments, it becomes essential to remember that guidance from Allah does not always come with public validation. Sometimes the path He opens for you will require courage to move forward even when others do not see what you see. The truth is that many of the greatest transformations happen in silence, far away from the approval or understanding of the crowd. Allah often works within the heart first, strengthening faith, refining intentions, and teaching lessons that only become visible much later. What others may view as strange or uncertain today may eventually reveal itself as wisdom tomorrow. But even if the world never fully understands your journey, it does not diminish the value of the path Allah has placed before you. Your responsibility is not to convince everyone around you that your journey makes sense. Your responsibility is simply to remain sincere in your faith and trust that Allah is guiding every step. Over time, those who once doubted may begin to see the growth, the strength, and the clarity that developed through your experiences. And even if they never fully understand it, The peace within your heart will become proof that the journey was worth it. The believer who accepts that not everyone will understand their path frees themselves from the heavy burden of seeking approval from the world. Instead, they focus on strengthening their connection with Allah, knowing that His understanding is far more important than the opinions of people. In the end, the journey written by Allah is not meant to be understood by everyone, it is meant to transform the one who is walking it. One of the most difficult yet transformative truths in the life of a believer is realizing that the pain they endured was never meaningless. It was part of a divine preparation written by Allah long before they understood its purpose. When you look back at your life, you may remember moments that felt unbearably heavy, times when your heart was broken, when people you trusted disappointed you, when doors you desperately hoped would open suddenly closed, or when you felt abandoned in seasons of loneliness that seemed to stretch longer than you could handle. During those moments, it is natural to question why such pain had to happen. The human heart often searches for explanations when suffering appears, but the wisdom of Allah operates far beyond what our limited understanding can immediately grasp. What feels like hardship in the present may actually be shaping qualities within you that comfort could never create. Pain has a unique way of refining the soul, stripping away illusions, and revealing the deeper strength that Allah placed within a believer's heart. When life is easy, it is simple to move through the days without reflection, but when hardship arrives, it forces a person to confront their vulnerabilities, their fears, and their dependence on Allah. This confrontation becomes a powerful turning point in spiritual growth. Through pain, a believer learns patience that cannot be learned in comfort. Through betrayal, they learn the importance of sincerity and trust in Allah rather than in people alone. Through loneliness, they discover the quiet presence of their Creator, realizing that even when the world feels distant, Allah remains near. The experiences that once felt like wounds slowly begin to transform into sources of wisdom. They teach empathy for others who are struggling, they deepen gratitude for the blessings that remain, and they create a resilience that prepares the believer for responsibilities they may not yet see. Allah sometimes allows a servant to experience deep challenges because He is preparing them for a future where their strength, compassion, and faith will have a greater impact on the lives of others. A heart that has known hardship understands suffering in a way that others cannot, and this understanding becomes a powerful tool for helping those who are still lost in their own struggles. Many people who later become sources of guidance, comfort, and inspiration for others first walked through difficult seasons that shaped their character. Their pain did not destroy them, it transformed them. What once felt like breaking points became the moments where Allah was quietly strengthening them from within. Preparation rarely feels comfortable because growth itself requires change, and change often arrives through experiences that challenge the familiar patterns of life. When Allah prepares a believer for something greater, He sometimes allows them to pass through storms that teach them how to remain steady even when circumstances are unstable. The lessons learned in those storms become the foundation of the person they are becoming. When you reflect on your own journey, you may begin to see that the hardships you faced slowly changed your perspective on life. They taught you to rely on Allah more deeply, to value sincerity over appearances, and to recognize that true strength comes from faith rather than from worldly success. The pain that once seemed unbearable may now appear as a chapter that shaped the person you are today. And although you may still carry memories of those difficult times, they no longer define you as weakness. Instead, They stand as evidence of the resilience Allah cultivated within your soul. Sometimes Allah allows a servant to experience pain, not to punish them, but to prepare them for a purpose that requires a stronger heart, a wiser mind, and a deeper connection with Him. What you survived was not an accident. Every hardship you endured was part of a process that was quietly preparing you for the next stage of your journey. And one day, when the purpose becomes clear, you may look back and realize that the very pain you once wished to escape was actually the training ground that shaped you into the person you needed to become. One of the most powerful realizations a believer eventually reaches is that not every unanswered prayer is a loss, and not every closed door is a failure. Sometimes the things we beg Allah for with complete certainty are actually the very things that could harm us if we received them. Human beings naturally believe they understand what will make them happy, successful, or fulfilled, but our knowledge is limited to what we can see in the present moment. Allah, however, sees the entire picture, the hidden consequences, the unseen dangers, and the future paths that our choices may lead us toward. There may have been times in your life when you prayed desperately for a certain opportunity, a relationship, a job, or a specific outcome that you believed would change everything for the better. You may have invested your hopes, your emotions, and even your sense of identity into that one thing, believing that if it did not happen, your world would fall apart. But then something unexpected occurred. The opportunity disappeared, the relationship ended, the door closed, or the plan collapsed in a way you did not understand. In those moments, it may have felt like disappointment, rejection, or even injustice. Your heart might have questioned why Allah would allow you to want something so deeply only to take it away. Yet, as time passed, many believers eventually look back at those moments and realize something astonishing. What they once considered a loss was actually protection. The relationship that ended may have saved you from deeper heartbreak later. The opportunity that vanished may have led you away from a path that would have distracted you from your faith or purpose. The door that closed may have quietly redirected your life towards something far greater than what you originally imagined. Allah's wisdom operates far beyond human expectation, and sometimes His mercy appears in the form of prevention rather than provision. Protecting a believer does not always mean giving them what they ask for. Sometimes it means removing what they desire before it becomes harmful. This is one of the reasons trust in Allah is such a central part of faith. True trust requires accepting that Allah's knowledge surpasses our own understanding. When a believer places their hopes in Allah, they learn to accept both the blessings they receive and the things that are withheld from them. What is withheld may be just as valuable as what is granted, because both are part of the divine care Allah shows toward His servants. There are countless stories in life where people once grieved over something they lost, only to later realize that losing it protected them from a future they could not see at the time. The believer who reflects on these moments begins to recognize a pattern. Allah was guiding them even when they thought they were being denied. Every redirection was actually a form of protection. Every delay was an opportunity for a better outcome to unfold. Every loss carried a hidden mercy waiting to be discovered later. When this realization settles in the heart, it changes the way a person views disappointment. Instead of seeing closed doors as the end of hope, the believer begins to see them as signs that Allah is carefully shaping their path. Even when the heart feels confused, faith reminds us that Allah never removes something from a believer's life without wisdom behind it. What you thought you needed may have only been a temporary desire, while what Allah is preparing for you could be something far more meaningful and lasting. Sometimes the greatest blessings come from the things we were protected from receiving. And when you look back at your journey years from now, you may realize that the moments you once considered your greatest disappointments were actually some of the most powerful acts of mercy Allah placed in your life. Many believers who walk a path of deep faith eventually experience a feeling that is difficult to explain, a sense that they are somehow different from the people around them. It may appear in the way you think about life, the values you hold, or the things that bring peace to your heart. While others may be focused entirely on worldly success, status, or constant entertainment, your heart may feel drawn toward reflection, meaning, and a deeper connection with Allah. At times, this difference can feel isolating because human beings naturally want to belong and be understood by the people around them. When your mindset, priorities, or spiritual awareness begin to shift in ways that others cannot relate to, you may feel as if you are standing slightly outside the crowd, observing life from a perspective that many people are not ready to see. But what feels like isolation is not always a weakness. It can be a sign that Allah has placed something unique within your heart. Throughout history, individuals who were given a greater sense of purpose often experienced this feeling of being different long before they understood why. Their hearts were guided toward reflection while others remained distracted. Their minds questioned things that others accepted without thought. Their souls searched for truth and sincerity in a world that sometimes valued appearance more than substance. This difference does not mean a person is better than anyone else. Rather, it means their journey may be unfolding along a path that requires deeper awareness, patience, and faith. When Allah intends to use someone for a greater purpose, He often begins by shaping their inner world first. He changes the way they see life, the way they respond to hardship, and the way they connect with Him in private moments of reflection. These changes may cause a believer to feel out of place in environments that once felt familiar, because their heart is no longer satisfied with the same distractions or shallow pursuits. Instead, they begin to seek meaning in their experiences, asking deeper questions about life, faith, and the role they are meant to play in the world. The world sometimes labels people who think differently as strange or unusual, but in reality, those differences can be signs of a heart that has been awakened to something greater. A believer who feels this calling must learn to embrace it rather than resist it. Trying to force yourself to fit into expectations that conflict with your faith or your inner convictions can create unnecessary struggle. Instead, understanding that Allah created every person with unique qualities allows you to see your difference as a gift rather than a burden. The purpose behind that uniqueness may not be fully visible yet, but every stage of growth is preparing you for something ahead. Perhaps your perspective will allow you to guide others who feel lost. Perhaps your patience through hardship will become a source of inspiration for someone who is struggling. Perhaps your awareness of Allah in everyday moments will remind others that faith can exist even in difficult times. The exact purpose may still be unfolding, but the seeds of it are already present in the way your heart responds to the world. Being different does not mean you are meant to walk alone forever. It simply means your path toward understanding may be deeper than the average journey. Allah sometimes sets certain hearts apart so that they can develop the strength, wisdom, and sincerity needed to fulfill the roles He has written for them. Over time, the very qualities that once made you feel out of place may become the reasons people seek your guidance, your comfort, or your example. When you accept the uniqueness Allah placed within you, you stop viewing it as something to hide and begin recognizing it as a responsibility to grow closer to Him and use your experiences for good. The believer who embraces this truth discovers that being different is not a sign of separation from others. It is a sign that Allah is shaping their life in a way that carries a deeper purpose, one that may one day benefit many hearts beyond their own. One of the most comforting truths in the life of a believer is realizing that nothing they endure with patience is ever unnoticed by Allah. Every silent struggle, every moment where you held back anger, every time you chose faith instead of despair, and every tear you wiped away while whispering a prayer in the quiet of the night is seen and recorded by the One who knows every hidden detail of your heart. There are many moments in life when patience feels incredibly difficult, especially when you are facing situations that seem unfair, painful, or beyond your control. You may have experienced times when people misunderstood you, when your efforts went unappreciated, or when you felt like your sacrifices were invisible to the world around you. In those moments, it can feel as though your patience is meaningless, as though enduring hardship quietly will never bring any real change. But Islam teaches something deeply powerful. Patience is never wasted, because Allah sees what people cannot see and records what the world often ignores. The patience you practice during hardship is not simply an act of endurance, it is an act of faith that demonstrates trust in Allah's wisdom even when circumstances appear difficult. When a believer chooses patience, they are declaring through their actions that they believe Allah's plan is greater than their temporary suffering. This type of faith carries immense value in the sight of Allah because it reflects a heart that remains steady even when life becomes uncertain. Human beings often measure success by immediate results, but Allah measures sincerity, resilience, and the strength of a believer's character. There may be moments when you wonder whether your patience will ever lead to something meaningful, but the reality is that Allah's system of justice is far more precise than anything we can imagine. Every moment of patience becomes a seed planted in the unseen world, and those seeds eventually grow into blessings that may appear in ways you never expected. Sometimes the reward appears in this life through unexpected opportunities, inner peace, or solutions that arrive at the perfect time. Other times the reward is saved for the hereafter, where even the smallest acts of patience will carry unimaginable value. The believer who understands this truth begins to view patience differently. Instead of seeing it as passive suffering, they see it as a powerful act of worship. Choosing patience in a moment of hardship is a way of drawing closer to Allah, because it reflects trust in His wisdom and acceptance of His plan. There is also a quiet strength that develops within a patient heart. The more you practice patience, the more resilient your spirit becomes. Situations that once felt overwhelming begin to feel manageable because your faith grows stronger with every test you endure. Over time, patience transforms the believer's perspective on life itself. Challenges no longer appear as obstacles meant to break you. They become opportunities to demonstrate faith and strengthen your relationship with Allah. When you remember that every moment of patience is being recorded, it becomes easier to endure difficult situations with dignity and calm. Even if no one else recognizes the sacrifices you are making, Allah knows them completely. He knows the moments when you wanted to give up but chose to keep going. He knows the prayers you whispered when no one else was listening. He knows the struggles you carry silently within your heart. Nothing you endure with sincerity disappears into nothingness. Every act of patience becomes part of a record that Allah preserves with perfect justice and mercy. And one day, when the believer sees the rewards for their patience, they will realize that the struggles they once feared were actually opportunities to earn blessings far greater than anything they could have imagined in this temporary world. In the life of a believer, one of the most profound spiritual truths is that the heaviest storms, the darkest nights, and the most overwhelming seasons of struggle often arrive just before the most remarkable breakthroughs that Allah has prepared. If you look closely at your own journey, you may notice that some of the moments you felt were unbearable, moments where the weight on your shoulders felt heavier than anything you could carry, were the very moments leading up to a shift in your life that would forever change your destiny. These seasons may come in many forms, perhaps a sudden loss, the betrayal of someone you trusted deeply, the collapse of plans you had been holding on to for years, or prolonged periods where your prayers seem unanswered and your efforts appear futile. At first glance, these experiences feel cruel or meaningless, but the reality is that they are part of a divine process designed to refine, prepare, and elevate you in ways that comfort alone could never achieve. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, does not merely guide His chosen servants along paths of ease. He molds them through trials so that when the breakthrough comes, it is not only deserved, but also sustainable and transformative. Think about the times when you felt your patience tested beyond what you believed you could endure, when it seemed like every door was closing around you and every source of support had disappeared. Perhaps in those moments you questioned your purpose, doubted your faith, and wondered if Allah had abandoned you. Yet these periods of intense challenge often serve a greater purpose. They are designed to remove what is not meant for you, to strengthen your resolve, and to prepare your character for a stage of life where your impact will multiply far beyond what you can imagine. The struggles are not random, they are precise, calculated, and intentional interventions by Allah to ensure that when the breakthrough arrives, you are fully equipped to embrace it with gratitude, humility, and wisdom. Many of the prophets and righteous servants throughout history walked similar paths. Their lives were marked by intense trials, long periods of waiting, and hardships that tested their faith to its limits. Yet these were the very seasons that prepared them for the missions that Allah had set before them. Consider the story of Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, whose life was marked by betrayal, imprisonment, and years of isolation. While these trials seemed insurmountable at the time, each difficulty was a layer of preparation that allowed him to rise to a position of unimaginable influence, eventually saving nations through the wisdom and patience he cultivated during those darkest seasons. Likewise, your hardest moments may not be a punishment, but a preparation, a divine shaping of your character, faith, and resilience, so that when the doors finally open, you step through them as someone transformed, ready to fulfill the purpose Allah has uniquely designed for you. Often, the breakthrough does not just change your life in a personal sense, it alters your spiritual trajectory, the way you perceive challenges, and the way you interact with the world around you. You may find that after enduring the hardest seasons, your capacity for empathy, patience, and understanding expands exponentially, allowing you to influence and inspire others who are still navigating their own storms. Every tear shed, every silent prayer uttered, every moment of restraint and reliance on Allah becomes a seed planted in the unseen, which will blossom into the breakthroughs you once thought impossible. The timing is never random. Even when life feels unbearably long and heavy, there is a rhythm to divine wisdom. Breakthroughs often arrive when you have reached the edge of your endurance, when your reliance on Allah has become unwavering, and when your heart has been prepared to handle both the responsibility and the blessing that comes with the next stage of your journey. In many ways, the difficulty of the season intensifies the sweetness of the reward that follows. Just as the hardest soil produces the strongest roots, the storms you endure cultivate a strength, resilience, and spiritual depth that cannot be acquired in any other way. Every test, every delay, and every heartbreak is a divine tool shaping your destiny, preparing you to step into a life of greater clarity, purpose, and divine favor. When you reflect on your own journey, you may begin to see that what once seemed like unbearable suffering was actually a masterful preparation for something extraordinary. The doors that were closed, the nights spent in solitude, the burdens that weighed heavily on your heart, all of it was part of a divine orchestration to bring you to a moment where your faith, patience, and resilience converge into a breakthrough that will define your path. And when that breakthrough finally comes, you will look back and realize that the pain, the trials, and the waiting were never meaningless. They were the very foundation upon which your success, your growth, and your purpose were built. Allah's wisdom ensures that the hardest seasons are never permanent, and that every trial is calibrated to prepare you for the blessings and responsibilities that lie ahead. Therefore, the next time you find yourself in a season that feels unbearably heavy, remember that this is not the end. It is a prelude to a divine moment of transformation, a moment when all that you endured will converge into clarity, fulfillment, and a breakthrough that only Allah could orchestrate, and you will emerge from it stronger, wiser, and closer to Him than ever before. One of the most remarkable truths for the chosen believer is that the journey they endure, the struggles, the hardships, the tears, the moments of despair, and even the silent victories that no one else notices will one day serve as a source of inspiration for others in ways they could never anticipate. Life often feels heavy for those whose hearts have been chosen for a divine purpose. You may have walked through seasons of loneliness, endured betrayals from people you trusted deeply, witnessed doors close just when you thought you were about to step into blessing, or struggled with circumstances that seemed unfair and unending. These moments can feel isolating, leaving you to wonder if all the pain, patience, and perseverance you are investing will ever mean anything beyond your own existence. Yet Allah, in His infinite wisdom, works in ways that are often invisible to the human eye. The experiences that challenge you, humble you, and refine your character are not simply trials to break you. They are the building blocks of a story that will eventually touch the hearts of countless others. Every tear shed, every prayer whispered in solitude, every moment when you resisted despair and clung to faith, every time you chose patience over anger or trust over frustration, is being recorded and woven into a narrative that has the power to uplift souls who will one day look to your journey for hope. Perhaps today, no one fully understands what you have endured. People may dismiss your struggles or fail to recognize the depth of your resilience. They may misunderstand your silence, underestimate your patience, or even criticize the decisions you make because they cannot see the unseen hand of Allah guiding your path. But the truth is that the story of your life, in all its trials and triumphs, is being written with purpose, and the impact of that story may extend far beyond what you currently comprehend. Imagine someone years from now who is facing hardship similar to yours. They may be lost, broken, or questioning their faith, and then they come across your story, your perseverance, your faith, your ability to continue trusting Allah despite the heaviness of life, and suddenly hope ignites within them. They realize that survival is possible, that patience yields results, that trust in Allah is not in vain, and that hardship is not the end of the story. Your experiences, which may feel like burdens today, will become the blueprint of strength for those who are struggling to find their way. This is a profound form of divine wisdom. Allah allows His chosen ones to endure more than others, so that their journey can later illuminate paths for those who are still searching. The challenges you faced, the times you felt abandoned or misunderstood, the obstacles that seemed insurmountable, and the victories that came after moments of despair, all of this contributes to a story that has the potential to inspire generations. It is often through witnessing the perseverance and faith of others that people learn to hold on to their own belief in Allah's wisdom and mercy. Your story will not just inspire spiritually, it will teach resilience, hope, and courage. It will show others that even when circumstances are overwhelming, patience and reliance on Allah produce results beyond what the human mind can envision. Sometimes the influence of your journey begins quietly, affecting those who are closest to you, first a family member, a friend, or even a stranger who witnesses your integrity, strength, and unwavering faith. And in time, the ripple effect expands. Your life, with all its trials and triumphs, becomes a living lesson, a testament to the power of enduring faith and the unseen work of Allah in preparing hearts for challenges, growth, and eventual success. Many people do not realize that inspiration does not always come from perfection or immediate success. It comes from endurance, from the courage to continue moving forward when the path is dark, from the determination to trust Allah even when everything seems lost. This is why the pain, the setbacks, and the silent struggles you endure today are essential. They are forming the story that will one day remind someone that they are not alone, that the difficulties they face are temporary, and that Allah's plan is far greater than the challenges themselves. In fact, the moments that feel the most painful are often the ones that resonate most deeply with others because they carry authenticity, vulnerability, and evidence of trust in Allah when life is far from perfect. Your life is teaching people without you even speaking. Your patience, your perseverance, and your faith are echoing in ways that are unseen, and Allah knows the precise timing when the people who need your story the most will encounter it. Even if you never witness the full impact of your journey, it is still influencing hearts, shaping minds, and encouraging souls to hold on to hope. This is a profound reminder that the struggles you experience are not only about your growth, but also about the growth and guidance of others. The lessons you have learned, the strength you have gained, and the faith you have nurtured through trials are forming a legacy that will inspire people to believe that even in darkness there is light, even in delay there is divine timing, and even in pain there is purpose. Your story, every hardship, every tear, every act of perseverance is part of a greater plan that Allah has woven with precision. One day, perhaps unexpectedly, your journey will become the guiding light for someone else's path, proving that endurance, faith, and reliance on Allah are not only transformative for the self, but also a source of hope and inspiration for countless others who are seeking a reason to continue believing. Therefore, every moment you feel misunderstood, every tear you shed in silence, every trial that feels unbearable, and every step of faith that seems unnoticed is actually part of a divine process preparing you to be a beacon for others. Your story, in its entirety, is being recorded by Allah not just for your benefit, but so that it may one day illuminate the lives of those who need it most, turning your pain into a source of hope, your perseverance into inspiration, and your faith into a legacy that continues long after your immediate circumstances have changed. One of the most profound and liberating truths a believer can grasp is that what Allah has written for your life, your destiny, your provision, your trials, your relationships, and your ultimate path is always better than anything you could imagine, plan, or even desire for yourself. As human beings, it is natural to try to control our lives, to make choices based on what feels comfortable, safe, or beneficial in the short term. We pray for certain outcomes, dream of particular paths, and strive toward goals we believe will bring happiness, fulfillment, or success. Yet Allah, in His infinite wisdom, knows the full picture of your existence, the unseen consequences, the hidden blessings, the challenges that may appear along the way, and the timing that ensures everything unfolds perfectly. There are moments when we feel frustrated, impatient, or disappointed because what we desire does not materialize in the way we expect, or the doors we hoped for remain closed. We may question why Allah allows certain struggles, why answers to prayers are delayed, or why the life we envisioned seems to be slipping beyond our reach. In these moments, it is crucial to remember that Allah is writing your story with knowledge far beyond what the human mind can comprehend. What may feel like a setback, a missed opportunity, or even a loss may, in reality, be a divine redirection to something far greater than we could have planned for ourselves. The believer who begins to internalize this truth starts to see life through a different lens. They recognize that every delay, every hardship, every obstacle, and every closed door is not a sign of divine neglect, but a manifestation of Allah's wisdom working behind the scenes. Sometimes the very things we think we need or desire would have distracted us from the purpose Allah has designed for us. Sometimes the relationships we chase, the opportunities we covet, or the plans we carefully craft are not aligned with the ultimate path that Allah has decreed. By accepting that what Allah writes is always better, a believer develops a deep sense of trust, patience, and surrender that transforms the way they navigate life. This surrender does not mean passivity or inaction. It is an active engagement with life that combines effort, faith, and reliance on Allah. You work toward your goals, pray earnestly, and strive to do good, but you do so knowing that the outcomes are ultimately in the hands of the one who knows what is best for you. This perspective brings peace to the heart that cannot be found in worldly pursuits alone. Over time, the believer begins to notice patterns in life where what was initially confusing, disappointing, or painful ultimately led to blessings that were far greater than what was originally desired. The job opportunity that did not materialize may have saved you from harm or failure later. The relationship that ended may have prevented heartbreak or guided you toward a more compatible, righteous companion. The path that seemed uncertain may have directed you toward a purpose that aligns perfectly with your spiritual growth and contribution to the world. Allah's planning is meticulous, precise, and full of mercy. It encompasses not just the immediate desires of the heart, but the long-term growth of the soul, the development of character, and the fulfillment of a destiny that extends beyond personal gain into impact on others and the world around you. Every setback, delay, and challenge is a part of the divine script designed to prepare you for the exact place and moment Allah has written for you. When a believer internalizes this truth, they begin to experience a shift in how they approach life. Fear of loss diminishes, envy of others' successes fades, and the urge to control every outcome relaxes, replaced by a deep-seated trust that Allah's plan is perfect and superior to anything we could orchestrate ourselves. This trust does not negate effort or responsibility. Rather, it empowers a believer to act with sincerity, courage, and wisdom, knowing that Allah is arranging the pieces in the best possible way. The believer begins to see that every moment, even those that feel like detours, are actually integral to the journey. Every trial, test, or hardship is not a punishment, but a preparation that ensures the ultimate outcome is aligned with what is best for the soul, the heart, and the purpose Allah has decreed. The beauty of this truth is that it extends beyond worldly matters. It encompasses spiritual growth, eternal reward, and alignment with divine will. Even when the immediate outcomes seem unclear, believers understand that what Allah has written carries eternal benefit and lasting impact, far exceeding any temporary satisfaction or success they might have imagined. By surrendering fully to Allah's decree, a believer experiences a peace that transcends fear, anxiety, and frustration, and a confidence that whatever unfolds is exactly what is meant to unfold. When the believer faces hardship, they remember that Allah's writing surpasses human understanding. When an opportunity is delayed, they recognize that divine timing is perfect. When a door closes, they trust that a better one is opening elsewhere. And when life takes unexpected turns, they know that Allah's wisdom is orchestrating every detail for the ultimate good. In essence, the chosen one comes to live with a heart that rests in certainty, a mind that trusts divine wisdom, and a spirit that walks forward with faith, knowing that what Allah writes for them is not only sufficient, but always better, richer, and more aligned with their purpose than anything they could have envisioned. The believer learns to see life itself as a masterpiece in progress, each experience, each trial, each blessing, and each delay meticulously placed to ensure that the final picture, the life Allah has written, is perfect in every way, both in this world and the next. And when this understanding takes root, the heart experiences a profound serenity, the spirit grows resilient, and the believer moves forward with courage, patience, and unwavering trust, embracing life as a journey fully guided by the one whose wisdom is infinite, whose timing is flawless, and whose love is constant. Whatever unfolds, whatever is delayed, whatever seems uncertain, believe firmly that what Allah writes for you is always better, and in that truth lies freedom, peace, and the ultimate success of the soul. As we reach the end of this journey together, remember that being chosen by Allah is not always easy, but it is always purposeful. Every trial you faced, every moment of doubt, every tear shed in silence, and every prayer whispered in the night has been part of a divine plan that only Allah fully understands. The lessons you've lived, the struggles you've endured, and the patience you've shown are not wasted. They are shaping you into someone capable of fulfilling a purpose far greater than what you could imagine. Life may continue to test you, people may continue to misunderstand you, and the world may not always recognize the light Allah has placed within you, but know this: the chosen heart is never alone. And every step you take in sincerity, faith, and trust is being recorded, prepared, and multiplied in ways that will leave a lasting impact, not just for you, but for the Ummah and for generations to come. So hold firm to your trust in Allah. Embrace the journey He has written for you, and never underestimate the power of your story, your patience, your faith, and your resilience. The trials of today are the victories of tomorrow. The delays are the preparation for breakthroughs, and the unseen guidance of Allah is always better than anything the world can offer. Stand strong, for you are chosen, you are guided, and you are deeply loved by the one who knows what is best for you. And when your story unfolds, may it inspire countless hearts, uplift countless souls, and serve as a living testament that the chosen ones are never lost, never abandoned, and never without purpose.